So today we're going to ask you about the recent event that is happening in Palestine.
Yes.
As we know, there's a huge tragedy that is happening in Gaza, Palestine, and there are thousands of martyrs and wounded people, and their numbers are increasing each day. The hearts of the Ummah are in pieces. In the latest events, there are people who say Hamas started all these by killing civilians, and that's why Israel is attacking. It is self-defense. Can this be looked at like this? Can all these bombings on Gaza be justified like that?
Thank you for the question. This is a major thing that has been going on in Western media, and they are trying to show the whole thing as if the whole thing started on October 7th. No, it did not. It started 75 years ago. It even started before of that. It started when the British occupied Palestine and then gave it as a gift to the Palestinians, to the Israelis. And the Israelis came from all over the world, including the president who applied for a visa, and we have the picture of that visa. And they took the lands from the Palestinians. And then, when the Palestinians started to resist, then they called this an attack on them. This is not an attack. This is self defense. This is resistance. If you occupy my house and I try to get you out, that is resistance. If you take a picture just of me resisting you, then you show it to the whole
Yeah.
world as if you are the one that is a victim. This is nonsense. What the
Yeah.
Jews and the Israelis and the British have done is a major crime to humanity. And it is the right of any occupied people to resist and free their country. Your audience come from all over the world. It's a very simple question to all of you. What would you do if your land is occupied?
Did the Muslims do something to Israelis in the past that they are doing all this in return? I mean, are Israeli people seeking some kind of revenge? What is the problem?
Akhi
What is the root
Ahmed,
of the problem?
I wrote the whole history in my encyclopedia about Islamic history, starting with the creation of the whole world until today. And the best two periods the Jews lived ever in anywhere in the world were under the Muslim rule in Andalus in Spain, and this is in their books. They call it the golden age of the Jews, and this is in their books, and I have the reference from their books. And the period they lived under the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic empire in the whole world, they were not persecuted. They had their synagogues. They lived freely. They worshipped freely. They were the merchants in the whole Arab and Muslim world under the Ottoman rule. Nobody persecuted them. So where did this come from? It comes from them, not from us.
What root causes can we find in this, attacks to Gaza? So, what do they have in their creed that they are doing all this? Are Zionists so committed to their religion, or do they have some other agenda and they use religion as an excuse for that?
I wrote the Encyclopedia of the Jews, and I wrote the whole history of the Jews. I wrote the whole creed that is in their books, the Torah and the Talmud, and I wrote about their present situation in Israel. Two things. First of all, in their religion, in their creed, it is very clear that they look as themselves as the chosen people, and anyone else is like animals. And they said that on TV lately, as we all heard it. So they have no value of any human life other than the Jewish life. This is written in their books. But that is only an excuse. Israel is not really a religious state. They claim to be Jewish in name. They don't practice Judaism. Most of the state, most of the people are secular. They do not believe in any religion. And they don't abide by Judaism. And you see the corruption, and you see how the adultery and everything that is forbidden in their books, you see it everywhere in their life. So it is only an excuse. It comes from cruelty. It comes from feeling this way. They were fed this since their childhood, that they are the chosen ones and they can do whatever they want to any genocides they call them. So anyone who is in the whole world is they can exterminate. They are cockroaches for them. That is how they look to others. They don't say it clearly, but it is very clearly in their books, and it is written in my book, The Encyclopedia of the Jews.
So, can I ask, do Zionists have this view of when we have all these lands from Nile to Euphrates, then we will have the heaven on the earth? So, don't they have a concept of hereafter?
They do have a concept, of course, of the hereafter. And they also have a concept of the Messiah, but they do not believe in Jesus as the Messiah. It is very clear written in their books that Mary, the mother of Jesus, may Allah be pleased with her, was an adulteress, and that Jesus was a son of an adulteress, and he was a liar, and they persecuted him. And to them, they crossed him, which did not happen, of course, in our religion, but they believe that they did. So this is also mentioned in the Quran. وَقَوْلُهُمْ إِنَّا قَتَلْنَا الْمَسِيحَ عِيسَى بْنُ مَرْيَمَ. And they said, we killed the Messiah, the son of Mary. So to them, what I really never understood is, why would the Christians side with the Jews? Why would they side with Israel? This is what they say about them. Now, while we glorify Mary and we glorify Isa, it is part of our religion that if you do not believe in Jesus, you are not even a Muslim. This is what is written in our books. Compare that to what is written in their books. So this is how they are. It is how they look at others, and unfortunately, this is what will happen to the whole world. They think it is the heavens on the earth, but it is not the end for them. For them, someday their Messiah will come, and with that they will control the whole world, not only the Arab world, the whole world. It is written in their books. So this is a cancer again and again. Be aware of this cancer before it spreads.
The Muslim Jesus plays a crucial role in Islamic eschatology. Now, you do know that the Muslims have an eschatology. In other words, they have a theology of the end. They know where they're going, according to their writings. They know where they're going. Let me describe the Muslim Jesus to you. This is out of their own writings, the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran is supposedly the word of Allah, actually the word of Satan, but they think it's the word of Allah. The Sunnah are the words of and the works of Muhammad. The Quran then constitutes their holy scripture, and the Sunnah, sometimes called the Hadith, constitutes their holy tradition. Their theology comes out of the Quran and the Sunnah, just as Roman Catholic theology comes out of the Bible and tradition, or Judaism comes out of the Old Testament and rabbinic tradition. The Muslims have two sources of authoritative truth. In their system, they have Jesus. Jesus was a man. He was not God. He did not die. He went to heaven like Elijah. He did not die, therefore he did not rise. He did not die, therefore he did not provide an atonement for anyone, because no one can provide an atonement for anyone else. He is a man, he is a prophet, he is nothing more. He went to heaven like Elijah, and he's in heaven right now, standing alongside Allah, waiting for Allah to send him back. In their system, this man, this prophet Jesus, who is now in heaven, never having died, plays a key role in the end times, because he will return from heaven without dying. He will come back when Allah sends him back. Now the question to ask is, why would Allah want to send Jesus back? He has a lot of prophets to pick from. Why does he send Jesus back? Answer, so that when he shows up, he can correct all the Christians who have misunderstood who he is. Sources for this again, the Quran and the Sunnah. The great event of the coming of Christ, of coming of Jesus, is so that this prophet, this man who comes back, can straighten out the misdirected, misguided, misconceiving Christians who think he was God, who died and rose again and provided atonement. He'll come back and straighten it out. And by the way, after he gets here, he'll get married, have children, and die and be buried next to Muhammad. That's the Muslim Jesus. In Islamic eschatology, there are three great signs of the end of history. Three great signs. There are some lesser signs, or some minor signs, and some major signs. In their eschatology, again quoting their sources exclusively, there are three great signs of the end of history. And each of them is a man. Let me tell you about those three men. First of all, the first man that will come in the end of history is the Mahdi, M-A-H-D-I. Sometimes he's called the 12th Imam. Every time Ahmadinejad over in Iran gives a speech, he says, glory to the Mahdi, glory to the 12th Imam. Every time. He's waiting for the coming of the Mahdi. What is he coming to do? He's coming, listen carefully, to slaughter all who will not worship Allah, convert to Islam. They are identified in their writings as pigs and dogs, and to establish the everlasting, world-dominating kingdom of Islam. That's what he will do. The Mahdi, or the 12th Imam, that means the guided one, is the long-awaited Savior. He is the establisher of the final caliphate. The world must follow him as he takes over, or he will destroy all enemies of Islam. He will come, and he will carry on holy war, and either you convert or you're killed by the Mahdi. He will have an army. His army will be a massive army, and his army will go from nation to nation to punish the unbelievers. The holy writings of Islam say that this army will carry black flags. And on those black flags, there will be one word, and that one word will be the word punishment. By the way, the Iranian army today carries black flags. They want to be ready for the coming of the Mahdi. He will lead the army of black flags first to Israel, slaughter all the Jews, and then he will establish his rule in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. That's what their literature says. Slaughter the Jews, establish his rule on the Temple Mount. According to their holy writings, the Mahdi will bring rain and wind and crops and wealth and happiness so that all will love him and no one will speak of anyone but him. Their writings say the Mahdi will come and make at first a peace agreement with the Jews and the West for 7 years. The reign of Mahdi lasts 7 years, in which he establishes Islam on the earth. Their holy writings say this: the Mahdi will come riding on a white horse, and it even says in their writings, as it says in Revelation 6:1 and 2. Saddam Hussein, by the way, painted murals of this Mahdi on white horse all over Baghdad. And he comes carrying a sword to kill the infidels. When the Mahdi arrives, he will discover hidden scriptures. He will discover them, interestingly enough, somewhere near the Sea of Galilee. And there will be there hidden scriptures, hidden gospels, and a hidden Torah. And they will be the true scriptures which will be used by the Mahdi to show the Jews and the Christians they were wrong, that their scriptures were the false scriptures. Let me summarize. The Mahdi will be a messianic figure. He will be a descendant of Muhammad. He will be an unparalleled, unequaled leader. He will come out of a crisis of turmoil. He will take control of the world. He will establish a new world order. He will destroy all who resist him. He will invade many nations. He will make a 7-year peace treaty with the Jews. He will conquer Israel and massacre the Jews. He will establish Islamic world headquarters at Jerusalem. He will rule for 7 years, establish Islam as the only religion. He will come on a white horse with supernatural power. He will be loved by all people on earth. If that sounds familiar, that is a precise description of the biblical Antichrist. Absolutely, step by step by step by step. The Bible's Antichrist is their Mahdi. We know that the rider on the white horse in Revelation 6 is the Antichrist. They use that verse to describe their Mahdi. Why am I giving you all this? Because the description of the Mahdi is exactly the description of the biblical Antichrist, the beast of Revelation 13. And you go into any kind of a study of that and you will find that all the details match up perfectly. The Bible's Antichrist is Islam's savior and world conqueror who establishes a universal Islamic kingdom. And there's a second sign, a second person, and it is Jesus. The Mahdi is not Jesus. The Mahdi is greater than Jesus. And that's important to their system, because if you have somebody greater than Jesus, then the Christians were wrong. So Jesus will return. Yes, Muslims believe that Jesus will come again. They believe in the return of Jesus. Not the true Jesus. The Jesus of Islam, not God, didn't die, didn't rise, didn't provide a sacrifice for sin, but he does return. He's a prophet, and he comes back, and he has one purpose when he comes back, and that is to assist and aid the Mahdi. He returns, listen to this, as a radical Muslim. He comes back as a radical Muslim. He will arrive, by the way, at a minaret near Damascus. And he will come back holding the wings of 2 angels who flew him down to meet the gathering army of the Mahdi in the east, the army of the black flags. Jesus, when he comes back, will pray to the Mahdi, who is greater than he. He will acknowledge the Mahdi as his Lord. He will make a pilgrimage to Mecca. He will worship Allah, and thus he will lead all Christians who will follow him to reject their notion of Jesus and accept the real Jesus, who is nothing but a prophet and a man. He will establish worldwide Sharia law. He will become the greatest Muslim evangelist, and he will be the final witness on the day of judgment against non-Muslims. Christians everywhere will affirm that they were wrong, that the gospel is wrong, the New Testament is wrong. He didn't die, he didn't rise, he isn't God, he isn't the Son of God. He himself will come back and point out how wrong we've been. He will correct all misinterpretations and all misrepresentations. Let me quote what their literature says. He will shatter crosses. That's metaphoric for the destruction of the church, a symbol of Christianity being placed in the church. He will kill pigs. He will abolish the tax on non-Muslims because there won't be any living non-Muslims. Can't tax dead people. And then he will do one more thing. He will kill the Islamic Antichrist. He will kill the Islamic Antichrist. Then he will die and be buried by Muhammad, but not until he has destroyed Christianity by revealing who he really is. Who is this? You compare what he does to the false prophet in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, 16, 19, 20, refer to the beasts coming out of the earth, the false prophet, who aids and abets the Antichrist. He is, as the Mahdi is the exact replica of the Antichrist, the Jesus prophet in Islam is the exact parallel to the false prophet who aids and abets the Antichrist. One of their writings says he espouses the cause of the Mahdi. He is the Mahdi's executioner. He is the Mahdi's enforcer. He is the Mahdi's prophet. And it is he who kills the Antichrist. That leads me to the third person. The Antichrist will show up. The Muslims call him Dajjal. He is the great deceiver. He comes to earth on a mule, and he's blind in one eye. He is an infidel. He is a false miracle worker, this Antichrist, this Islamic Antichrist. But you know who he claims to be? He claims to be Jesus, the Son of God. He claims to be deity. He will attempt to stop the Mahdi and the true Jesus, but the true Jesus will slaughter him. This is their view of the true Christ. Our Jesus is their Antichrist. Our Antichrist is their Redeemer. It is a satanic counterfeit that is in complete reverse. The army, this is a quote, the army of Satan will be led by a person who will claim to be Jesus Christ. There will be a great battle. The Muslim Jesus will fight the false Jesus and kill him and establish Islam forever. The truth is, the true Jesus will destroy the Antichrist and the false prophet and establish his kingdom forever. This is Satan's complete counterfeit. Muslim world domination.